Welcome back to Devoxx, and we're here this time to talk about, well, I think Android, right?
Yes.
This is
let's
Romain, this is Chet, or is it the other way around?
We're not sure anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So welcome guys, welcome back to Devoxx. You've been
Thanks.
here many years, and this is the second time in a row that you're here announcing almost the release of something, you know, following the release.
Maybe we try to time the platform releases with Devoxx, maybe
So
or
it's
possibly it's a coincidence.
Devoxx-driven development.
Yes. That's a new process. I
DDD.
think you're going to talk about it. It's a new pattern.
There is a process talk tomorrow, so yeah, maybe.
Yeah, make sure you don't miss that one on parlays. It'll be on parlays, right?
I
if it's
hope
good.
so. Yeah.
Only?
Yeah.
Okay. So it should be there. So we're here to talk about Android 4.4, that's KitKat, the KitKat release. So we announced two things, obviously the software, 4.4, and some hardware, I think.
I think there's some new hardware. Oh, wait, there's some in my hand.
You happen to
so
have
this
it.
is
What
an
a
example of the
coincidence.
Nexus 5. This is the white model, white on black, as well as the black on black, both colors.
Okay, good. Two colors available in a number of countries from day one.
Yes, I don't remember which ones. Many countries, not enough.
Not enough. It's never enough.
And the other ones are a little more vague to me.
So there are a number of European countries for
Yes,
those
yes.
watching us in Europe, certainly. Anything you want to point out about the device, other than the fact that it runs KitKat, which we'll talk about in a second?
I love the screen. The screen's amazing.
Yeah.
Uh,
High
color
resolution,
calibration.
fast, smooth,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, the colors are really good and it's super fast, that device.
You just like the screen because it has your wallpaper on it.
Great, so let's talk about KitKat 4.4. Does the numbering, first of all, mean anything in terms of how much features this went into this one?
It's exactly 0.1 better than the previous release.
Okay, that's a good start.
I would say the distinction on the dot releases, correct me if I'm wrong, is API bump. So there could be some new APIs that you could take advantage of.
Yeah.
If we're not changing the APIs, generally we wouldn't do that. It would be more like a maintenance release on what we've previously done.
It's a question for marketing engineers. We don't decide the
Okay.
version numbers.
All right,
Yeah.
next question.
We just come up with features
Good enough.
and we fix bugs.
Good
and that's
enough.
it.
Okay, fine. Fair enough. Animation framework. Is that something new? And why even have something like that?
Users
developers.
demand animations. It's been my personal goal to make animations almost automatic as far as they can be. I realize everybody likes to think about animations as much as I do, but they probably don't have the time to. So the more that we can do to make it easy for them, I think the better the animations are going to be in the application. So the main thing that we did this time, we have all kinds of animation capabilities already, but you have to write a fair amount of code to get really good animations. We made it easier to do transitional animations. In fact, the feature is called transitions. And you can basically say, start a transition now, change your UI by inflating new layouts or modifying the
Right.
views that are there. And on the next frame, it will automatically detect what the changes are in the UI and run some sort of automatic animation.
And that's an API, or is it declarative?
It's both. You
yeah.
can declare resources where you state this information ahead of time in addition to layout files, or you can, in your code, simply say, okay, change the UI accordingly, call this method on the transitions interface. And
So
this is in the transition package.
You basically programmed yourself out of your job.
It wasn't the intention, but I'll have to see whether my badge works
You
when
should
I
go
go
talk
home.
to your managers when we come back.
There was one neat feature that I found, which is full screen, or there's probably a better
The
name for that.
immersive mode.
Immersive
immersive.
mode, okay.
So it's something that we had before, so it's the ability to get rid of the system UI, the nav bar and the status bar. So some apps were able to do it, so video playback for instance,
Okay.
but now it's open to all applications. We're going to talk about it in details in our talk, what's new in Android. There's going to be some code. It's very easy to use, and it makes a lot of sense for games or immersive content like books, magazines,
Okay.
things like that.
Yeah, great.
You can think of the main change being that you can have a full screen application where the user can actually interact with the application while remaining full screen, as opposed to as soon as they tap, the bars come back in, which was the previous behavior.
So how do I exit that mode?
You can swipe from the top or swipe from the bottom, and you get the bars back.
Can my kids do that, or I hope they can't?
They can, but if they learn the gesture.
How smart are your kids?
Let's not get there.
Okay.
Another thing I like, and we're going to try not to go through all the features, and there will be a great talk. I'm sure you guys will deliver and available on Parlays. Another interesting feature is screen recording.
Yes. Awesome
Because,
for developers.
I mean,
in
it's great for
particular.
you guys, probably. It's great for developers, for showcasing their apps on the store.
Well, so it's great.
How does it work?
It's great both for developers. It's great both because they can showcase their app, on websites. They don't have to do the shaky cam version of recording. It's also really useful for debugging. You can go frame by frame in your video, and you can see if there's a glitch or performance issue. You can see that. That's actually how we use it most of the time. So right now there's a command line tool with ADB. You type ADB shell screen record, and you get an MPEG-4. Or from Android Studio, there's a new button. In one click, you can record a video. The only limitation right now is that you can only record up to 3 minutes. That's it.
Good, but there's no triggering this directly from the phone, like you can take a
Not
screenshot?
At the moment, no.
Not yet, okay, cool. Project Svelte. So you guys talked about butter last year. Butter was not good after all, and you need to go on a diet. What's the deal there?
You know, all diets are in cycles anyway, so a little too much butter, a little more diet needed. So
this is about running on
lower end devices.
And how do you define this?
512 megabyte is what we aimed at to run reasonably well on. It turns out that there's still a bunch of devices still coming out on the market, new with older releases, and the reason is because the newer releases simply had too much memory footprint for them to run comfortably. Not enough applications could run simultaneously. So what we've done is slim down the entire platform to make it easier to run more applications in only 512.
So how did you actually do that? Is that at the OS level, at the app level, everywhere you could shave off?
It's new tools, new APIs, lots of work in the OS itself. So new kernel features, a lot of changes in the framework. We've also analyzed all the apps, and the app developers work great in optimizing their applications. So today we give a bunch of tips and tricks on what you can do, what tools can you use in your apps, and what can you do to use less memory yourself. And it's very important because there are a lot of users out there with phones. It's still a lot of memory, 512 megs of RAM, but you want as many apps as possible to run at the same time. So,
do you want to talk about proc stats enhancements and performance tools in general?
Yeah. So we come up with new tools in every release to help the team itself optimize the platform, and we make those tools available. So everything we've used on Project Svelte and Project Butter before that, those are tools made available to developers in KitKat.
In fact, the tips that we talked about in the session that we had earlier today, it was tips for Android developers, but they really came from our own experience. It's the approaches that we use, the tools that we use, and the optimizations that we implement to make the platform smaller, and maybe developers can think about the same things to make their applications smaller as well.
Great. Another new feature is printing support.
Yes, excellent.
Based on PDF, so it's not just for printing, it's also for generating PDFs.
It's actually the side effect of adding support for printing. You can generate PDFs.
Right. Well, you can look at it both ways, I suppose.
Yeah. But they're pretty independent, so if your applications, if you want to be able to export PDFs to just email them or store them somewhere else, you don't have to use the printing APIs.
So speaking of physical printers, which ones can you print to? What's the protocol you use?
Any cloud print enabled device. So if you have cloud print on your desktop, it's going to work with pretty much any printer. If you have a cloud print enabled printer, it works directly. And you can also install plugins. So on the Nexus 5, we ship with the HP plugin. So any HP printer or recent HP printer will work.
Awesome.
And I'm sure there will be more plugins on the market on the Play Store very soon.
Right. Awesome. Storage access framework.
Yes. Concept of documents and sort of unified access to different places where you can store things. So your application no longer needs to figure out, how do I access the area, an SD card where I want to put it, or on the cloud, or if you're a service that provides storage like a Dropbox or whatever, out in the cloud, you don't need to figure out how to expose that to users. Instead, there's a unified way to both publish your storage mechanism as well as for the user to access the published storage.
So so it's good for providers as both as users. It's like a modern version of a open dialogue and a chooser, file chooser, that type of thing.
That's exactly it.
Okay, cool.
It's document oriented. It's not file oriented.
It's document oriented. Okay, that works. Okay, the web view. The web view is based on Chromium now.
So big news based on Chromium.
Really
brand new
key.
implementation.
Yep.
Same APIs. Some of them have been deprecated, but it's a drop-in replacement, nothing to do in your apps. Now it runs on Chromium.
You don't actually have a choice, right?
No, you don't have a choice. So, which is good because there's better HTML5 support. The Chromium team, is constantly working on improving things. You also get remote debugging. So over USB, you can use Chrome to remote debug on your phone, which is really useful.
Cool. So we had a lot of people trying it out and having some features, finding out new things they can do with it. Because with the Chromium comes support with a set of new features around HTML5, and I mean they're all new apps that you can build.
So I haven't seen new apps taking advantage of HTML5 yet, but I'm sure we'll see that coming very shortly.
Right, because this is where support for HTML5 will come in the browser in Android. Let's see. One more thing I had was SMS provider.
So it's we've had an API. It was a hidden API that a lot of people were using. It was not an official API, so now we have an official API to access the SMSs on the phone, and we have the concept of the default SMS application. So only the default SMS application, as chosen by the user, will be able to write to the SMS database. But now at least we have official support for that. But we let the user in control.
Great. Two more things I want to cover before we close this. One is tooling. Can you say a few words on Android Studio? There's a lot of work going on this, and Tor is not, or Xavier are not here with us.
Yeah, so on their behalf, I'll talk about all the work that they've done that I'm not aware of. There's obviously work going on in the tools all the time anyway, but there's been a huge effort behind Android Studio. It's still early release, beta release. I forget what the official terminology is.
Google I/O preview.
It is, strangely. It's been 0.3.4 just came out this week. And it provides, one of the changes is there's some language level changes, so you can now take advantage of things like strings and switch statements.
I want to get to that, absolutely.
Diamond operators, the multi-exception catch, and the resource closing, I forget.
Automatic resource management.
So the cool thing about these language features is all of them except the last one, the resource management, is they're available on any platform release, because the Dalvik compiler basically will just compile it to whatever it needs to be. It's kind of syntactic sugar, right? The resource closing is the resource management is a capability of the platform you need to do target
because there's
SDK.
an API based, there's an interface you need to implement.
So
that was actually the last point I wanted to get to, is that you get all those language evolution, which actually, a lot of them do make sense for Android developers. So they're, multi-catch and then
those features.
Auto-closable is a pretty important one as well.
And there are other features too, divided support for drawable previews. The integrated DDMS is getting better, so you can start screen recording from Android Studio directly. There's a new trace view UI that's very similar to systrace, so it's a little easier to use. They're coming out with new releases all the time, and every time they do a pretty amazing job at coming up with new features. So yeah.
Okay, great.
It's exciting.
Well, I guess guys, that's all the time we have for. Thanks for showing up with our friend here.
KitKat.
And I think go get there and then use those APIs and then provide feedback. That's I guess our call to action here.
Thanks.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.